uncontested reliability, or rapid, overwhelming, and dare I say stylish crowd control? Quartermaster Creature here, changing up my format for you divers today, doing a direct comparison between two wonderful pieces of super Earth tech to regale on their strengths and weaknesses, and finally figure out which is best for what. The AMG 43 Machine Gun Sentry and AG16 Gatling Sentry, respectively, will be the subjects of my keen eye today. Ranked per category and scoring points when they best their competitor. The categories are power, enemy matchups, ease of use, friendly fire potential, upgrades, and style. Let's dive into it, shall we? To begin, let's talk raw power. Both the AMG 43 Machine Gun Sentry and AG16 Gatling Sentry fire the same glorious medium penetrating 8mm round, meaning they actually have the same damage output. However, their damage per second and ability to sustain fire over long periods could not be more different, despite sharing a caliber. The MG Sentry fires at 660 rounds per minute, meaning this autogun will use up its entire base 175 round magazine in just under 16 seconds. This gives the MG Sentry 990 damage per second, with a maximum potential damage output of a monstrous 15,750 for the entire load of ammo. Very impressive for a piece of gear approved for use by cadets. And as said prior, both the MG and Gatling Sentries share the same ammo type and damage per shot. However, the Gatling features a far higher DPS. The Gatling vastly overpowers the MG in terms of fire rate, with a staggering 1,560 rounds per minute. That's over double what the prior Sentry boasts at 26 rounds per second. The Gatling gun after this Quartermaster's heart. And despite that higher fire rate, by default the Gatling Sentry actually comes packed with more ammunition than the MG, with a total 500 ammo compared to the 175 of the Machine Gun Sentry, which this hungry machine will use up in about 19 seconds of sustained fire. This gives the Gatling Sentry, and I swear on Super Earth I'm not lying, 2,340 damage per second, and 45,000 potential damage from a mag if every shot hits its mark. Is it hot in here, or just me? Getting kinda flustered here, Helldiver. But raw, beautifully overwhelming firepower isn't everything, as the Machine Gun Sentry, while boasting a far lower max ammo and DPS, is much more reserved when spending the shots it stores. In my experience, the MG Sentry is much more accurate and wise when firing, only doing so at enemies, or at least attempting to. Whereas the Gatling Sentry, listen, I appreciate the eagerness to down the enemies of democracy, but please stop sweeping to new targets while firing. So much ammo is wasted, along with more than the occasional Helldiver. We'll get to friendly fire soon, but this is a bad habit of the Gatling Sentry, and not good. This round's point goes to the Gatling Sentry. Despite the ammo wasted and potential friendly fire, the DPS potential of this beast is hard to ignore, especially for a Quartermaster like myself. Now, what's the point in firepower without enemies to eviscerate? The magnificent MG Sentry's primary focus will be on the smaller chaff enemies. The time it takes to down these meat and metal shields is negligible, with the MG Sentry ripping through them with ease and efficiency. However, the relatively timid fire rate of the MG means it is prone to being swarmed by lesser foes. Medium enemies will fall similarly as quick, with enemies such as Devastators falling to the Sentry in around 7 shots, or just under a second of focused fire. And Overseers and Hive Guards will perish even faster. The quick target acquisition of this main machine will also make it a potent piece against aerial attackers, such as Shriekers, Elevated Overseers, and even Stingrays, should the situation require it. However, where the MG struggles is against anything featuring armor beyond medium. That isn't to say it doesn't have a use against them, however, as the MG Sentry can provide a suitable distraction for any of the larger foes a diver might face, giving them time to reload a support weapon or call in another stratagem to handle the distracted threat. We will always remember your noble sacrifice, Sentry 129. Democracy bless your brave soul. Code? Yeah, code. And as a final note here on the MG43 machine gun Sentry, I find it performs best against the Terminants and Illuminant, with the automatons loving to shoot it with their vile rockets. Even with that said, the MG Sentry is a more than competent pick against the bots in most scenarios. As for the Gatling Sentry, it mows down all the enemies that the MG Sentry can, only faster and with far more brutality. While it is fun to see the utter excessiveness of spraying a single scavenger with 26 8mm rounds per second, again, the efficiency of the Gatling must be called into question. These sentries are two sides of the same coin, with the MG having weakness to crowds and hordes of enemies swarming it, while the Gatling clears the area around it haphazardly but without the efficiency and uptime the MG boasts. And similarly to the MG, the Gatling Sentry will obliterate medium enemies with ease, able to destroy Devastators and Overseers alike in but a single second of sustained spraying. Though, despite the edge the Gatling has over the machine gun Sentry against smaller foes, I'd say the MG beats it out against larger enemies, despite both lacking the ability to suitably handle them. I'll explain why later. But for now, our second point is awarded to the AG-16 Gatling Sentry. You've got some catching up to do, MG. 2 points behind already. But this isn't a marathon, after all. Next up, we'll be rating the ease of use of these freedom-spreading machines. That includes how hard a Helldiver has to consider positioning when throwing out one of these sentries, the difficulty of the stratagem input code, and how well they fit into loadouts. The MG Sentry has a relatively short cooldown compared to its potential uptime, at 90 seconds, meaning without any ship upgrades, an efficient Helldiver can make use of this machine gun Sentry 30 times over the course of a 45-minute deployment. That's some exceptional uptime if I do say so myself. The input code is relatively fast. Down, up, right, up. Quick enough that with some practice, a true Sentry expert can toss these out on the fly and litter the battlefield with MGs aplenty. Loadouts wise, I'd say with the short cooldown, the AMG-43 fits best with high mobility divers and other similarly low cooldown, low commitment stratagems, such as the EAT-17 expendable anti-tank and orbital Gatling barrage. Simply toss it and forget to mow down some chaff or draw the attention of some of the bigger ones. As for the AG-16 Gatling Sentry, I'd say more caution is needed when positioning this one. As well, the MG is no stranger to simply shooting through divers to impact targets. This is at least mostly survivable. 26 rounds per second from the Gatling, however, is far more lethal. And while I appreciate the eagerness to destroy the enemies of freedom, yeah, take care when placing the Gatling, and lie down if you see it swinging to a target behind you. Positive for this bullet-based crowd shredder, however, is the input code. Down, up, right, left is all that's needed to deploy your very own Gatling Sentry, faster even than the MG. Seems Command is eager to be rid of these things. Can't imagine why. And as mentioned prior, positioning the Gatling Sentry is of utmost importance for a diver to avoid endangering themselves and teammates. As such, unlike the machine gun Sentry I mentioned prior, I would advise use of the Gatling in a more defensive and less mobile scenario. Combined with a longer 150 second cooldown, this is much less of a throw and forget tool, and more of a precise, albeit messy, tool for handling advancing crowds. To best utilise this aspect of the Gatling Sentry, might I recommend the EMG 101 HMG emplacement, EAT-12 anti-tank emplacement, or GR8 recoilless rifle positioned behind this Sentry to handle the big boys while the Gatling cuts down the rest. This point is tough to give, but as I feel the machine gun Sentry has more practical uses and far more diverse loadouts, combined with a lower cooldown and easier positioning due to less friendly fire potential, claiming its first point is the AMG-43 machine gun Sentry. Well done. Now, friendly fire potential. Point goes to the machine gun sentry. Let's move on. No, 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 no. I can't do that to my dearest Gatling. But it really does need to stop cutting down Helldivers because it saw a lone scavenger gnawing on a bone 50 meters behind them. And while I won't be changing the score here, the machine gun sentry can be prone to friendly fire in select scenarios. To mention positioning again, this Quartermaster would highly recommend positioning any and all sentries in front of your current position, even if you're going to be advancing. Throwing one behind and staying where you are is a great way to be directly in your own line of fire by proxy. But I suppose if you want one of these fancy new prosthetics, it is a better option than falling on a mine. We are now tied with the AMG 43 Machine Gun Sentry and AG 16 Gatling Sentry having 2 points each, respectively. Now, here's where things get really interesting for numbers fiends like me. Ship upgrades. With every ship module unlocked, the MG Sentry goes from an occasional burst of medium firepower to a constant, sustained barrage of endless 8mm against your foes. Cooldown is reduced by 15%, Sentry health is up by 50%, ammo is increased from 175 to 263, rotation speed increases from 90 degrees a second to 160, and explosion resistance is increased by 50%. Wow! Forgive me for getting rather excited, but as said before, this is an absolute game changer for the MG Sentry. The 90-second cooldown is lowered to 76.95 seconds, and combined with a 50% increased ammo capacity, you can drop a machine gun sentry during a planetary siege and it'll still be firing by the time the planet is liberated. And if it runs out, simply pop down another one. Easy as that. All this isn't to say the Gatling Sentry enjoys these upgrades less than its more polite brother, however. The ammo increase in particular brings the mag size up from 500 to 750 and its potential damage from 45,000 to 67,500. Oh, sorry. It's enough to make a Quartermaster cry. Oh. Additionally, the cooldown reduction means the Gatling can be deployed more frequently, with its 150-second cooldown lowered to 120.5 seconds. However, the increased rotation speed in the Gatling is quite terrifying. If you thought it had friendly fire potential, turning at 90 degrees per second, 160 is... Listen, I served on the creek, and even I shake in my boots and don't dare do anything but crawl in the presence of an evenly placed Gatling Sentry. Now, this round is extremely tight, with both sentries here enjoying massive benefits from their upgrades. However, I don't believe the machine gun sentry has an increased potency for friendly fire once reaching its full potential. Unlike the Gatling, point goes to the machine gun sentry, finally clutching the lead for the time being. And lastly, style. We Truth Enforcers know there's power in a sharp presentation, both visually and audibly. Both of these apply greatly to the sentries we're covering today. As with the prior categories, let's begin with the MG Sentry, shall we? Visually, not bad. Not bad at all. It shares the same barrel as the MG43 machine gun, sans the bipod, as this is simply an automated version of this particular weapon platform. It has a nice strong muzzle flash, but what really catches my ear is the sound. The iconic rat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat release of the 8mm rounds is forever drilled into my head from my time at the training facility on Mars. Call me nostalgic, but I'd happily let the MG Sentry give me non-service related tinnitus any day. Now, I would be lying if I wanted to talk about the MG Sentry's appearance and sounds by its lonesome. They are most enjoyable, particularly the sounds, but the Gatling Sentry is my reason for including this category. To say this beastly tri-barreled bullet blitzer has anything other than a divine presence on the battlefield is a disservice to Super Earth itself. The very sound of the Gatling Sentry instills fear in both enemies and divers alike, commanding respect or death, whatever the intended or otherwise target chooses. and the rev of the barrel as it readies to rip through the rabid reprobates that oppose Super Earth. Oh man, that Helldiver is what keeps this Quartermaster fighting. Aura, just pure unfiltered aura as it radiates from the red hot barrels of the Gatling Sentry. Now, I love you, Machine Gun Sentry, but I think we can both agree, in this regard, it's simply not even a competition. Point goes to the Gatling Sentry. To finish off, I'd be lying if I said I hadn't planned this, Helldiver. To have both sentries be evenly matched in terms of points at the end of my summaries of both. That is because, as I hope you've noticed throughout today's lesson, they are essentially the same weapon, fulfilling different roles at different speeds. They feature the same damage but vastly different DPS outputs, as well as different cooldowns and different levels of commitment. To answer the question of which is better, the MG Sentry or Gatling Sentry, a diver must ask themselves what they value more. Quick, reliable, sustained damage with minimal risk to friendlies that can be positioned just about anywhere and pairs well with mobility? Or devastating, overwhelming bursts of bullets that demand careful decision making and positioning to survive, lending itself to a less mobile setup? Or you could always just bring both. That works too. Though, if you would really like my opinion, Helldiver, the EMG 43 Machine Gun Sentry will always have a special place in my heart. Until next time, this is Quartermaster Creature, signing off. Yo, thank you for making it to the end of another video. I very much appreciate it. This was a fun one. I really like both of these sentries. I didn't used to like the Gatling, but I've got a newfound appreciation for it. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. You know, I should be saying that more often, but I want to break immersion, so it's here. Also, big shout out to my friend Vorksbox. I'll link him in the description and in the comments. He helped me with the render for the thumbnail of this, and it goes so hard. Also, come check me out on Twitch as well. And I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.